compassion fatigue, and we can all know and feel that after this year. Right, we have this opening video that we've been sharing in all of our breakout sessions as a way to really just set the tone. And there's nothing like a little James Bond to get you going, right, Shayna? So thank you for that. We just love that kind of all of that. And so we're here to think and reflect about where we've been as a community, but how we can really work together as an ecosystem to support the future wellness for our providers and for our military and veteran families. So we have a great conversation set up for you today. We're just thrilled to have you with us. And so I just am grateful, of course, to Shayna, our Wellness Collaboration Committee leader, and for her leadership, and for all of you for taking the time to join us. What we've been doing in all of our breakouts is just providing kind of a landscape overview of kind of the state of affairs, which is we started at a super high level with you, sharing a little bit about Combined Arms and where we are, and then diving deep into some discussions by some panelists and a presentation, and then we'll go into our breakout session. So thank you for joining us, and we're excited. If you all want to just put your names and organizations in the chat, we really appreciate this. We want you to be as engaged as possible, as we know that this would be so much better if we could be together in person, but just another year of this, and we have a great presenter who's going to talk to us about some more tips and trips about how we can work through this time together. Earlier this morning, I was even just in doing some chair session yoga as people with other providers. So all little things that we can do to invest in our wellness, right?
Will you be teaching classes soon?
No, I will not. But they also told me I shouldn't do it in my rolling chair, which I'm currently sitting in, but I was safe. Don't worry, guys. So
good tip of the trade, or trick of the trade.
But anything we can do to invest in ourselves and to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, right? We've learned that we have to take care of ourselves to be able to take care of others. And so just really wanted to take a minute to focus on that. If we will, I'm just going to run through some high level information about Combined Arms and where we are going forward. And then I'll turn it over to you, Shayna, to just lead the way for the rest of the session. So thank you for that. Combined Arms is on, our mission is to unite the community and accelerate the impact of veterans and military families. And we stand on the shoulders of our member organizations and the providers out there doing the great work, and just want to make sure that no veteran or military family falls through the cracks. We do that obviously through an innovative collaboration. So through our collaboration committees, through our technology, and through amazing service providers. It's all in partnership with each and every one of you. So thank you so much for all of that. If you'll go to the next slide, we want to talk a little bit about the history, as people are like, we've had so much growth over the past couple of years. And so we just like to point this out. So you don't realize, like, hey, if you're confused about who's doing what or where, like, there's been a lot going on, and it's been amazing to partner alongside of all of you with this journey. In February of 2019, Combined Arms merged with the Lone Star Veteran Association, and that's our amazing community groups across around Houston, where we focus on SIVs and allies, LGBTQ veterans and allies, our caregivers, our families, and everything else. So yes, good morning and cheers to the coffee. I love it. In April, we launched during this global pandemic year, right after the pandemic, we were all at home, we launched the Texas Veterans Network. So expanding the Combined Arms model across the state of Texas. And within 1 year served 10,000 veterans and military connected individuals. So a huge success. Not during a pandemic, of course. Then we also merged with NAVSO, so taking the professional development programming and really investing into an intentional effort to invest in our member organizations and that collaboration portfolio. That was formally launched in January of 2021. And then, of course, as I talked about, serving 10,000 veterans. And in September, so just last month, we launched a new client-facing assessment on our technology that took that intake process down from a self-identified individual from 13 minutes, if you were to take all of our surveys and assessments, down to about 60 seconds. So trying to constantly improve that user experience. If you'll go to the next slide. Combined Arms, today, we are the Combined Arms Institute and the Texas Veterans Network. So we are all one family, but we just want to make that really clear that we are one team, and these are two different programs that live within inside of Combined Arms. So Next slide, please. Our Texas Veterans Network, we'll go to the technology because people are always like, where are you? What are you doing? It's live across the state of Texas. We're mapping resources across the nation, national partners and local resources. Our technology is also live in Miami-Dade County, Minneapolis. It's soon to be live in San Diego. And then of course, our technology is also live in partnership with the Veteran Wellness Alliance to connect people to clinical mental health care in 30 states across the nation. So any way that we can provide access to make sure that no one falls through the cracks and they get connected to best-in-class service providers, that's truly what we're focused on. And we're currently launching and mapping in a partnership with the state of South Carolina. So that will be live hopefully in 2022. So really exciting stuff that we have coming going forward. Our Texas Veterans Network, if you'll go to the next slide, please, is all about mapping those local resources and getting connected. We have 177 active member organizations, 214 organizations in the queue. It takes a little while to bring and activate organizations just from end-to-end process, but it's an honor and privilege to be able to partner with everyone. And they're available over 700 resources for veterans and families to get connected to. So if you go to the next slide, we are covering 196 counties across the state of Texas, and that's Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, rural Texas, of course, Houston, and just to have a partner in the San Antonio area as well. We're almost up to serving 20,000 clients this year alone. So really exciting stuff. And then of course, our member organizations have been connecting very quickly with these individuals. So an amazing response time, as you can see. And then of course, our highest needs are employment, financial assistance. As of late this year was a unique one to see this one kind of skyrocket, and then VA benefits assistance. Here are our most referred organizations, as it makes sense. Some of our employment providers are always kind of going to get the most, as the DoD creates the largest displaced workforce every year. So, but an exciting way to partner and work with all of you. If you go to the next slide, please. So the Combined Arms Institute, again, this is where we focus on our collaboration committees. We're focused on bringing people together, providing best-in-class resources, but sharing that best practices together. And just thank you for all of you for taking the time. Advocacy and research, so really highlighting some of those challenges together in partnership with organizations across the country and making you informed on what's happening, keeping you informed on what's happening. And then our VSO 2.0, which is really investing in your professional development through webinars, courses, and any way we can to enhance you as individual professionals serving our military community. If you go to the next slide, we have provided over 1,200 professional development hours this year, 15 events and webinars, including one military connected course. And then of course our 5 committees, of which our wellness breakout is today. So some really exciting stuff that we've been able to accomplish. And if you'll go to the next slide, one of the things we want to reiterate is that we know our clients, when they come through the door, they access on average 2.4 resources. So that means if you're providing one of them, they can get connected, whether it's themselves or their family members, to another resource, 1.4 resources. So some people take 6, some people just take 1, whether it's volunteering or financial literacy or education, or whether it is a wellness service. So we really encourage our organizations to refer back in through the system. And so if you'll go to the next slide, please, we are announcing a 2022 check-in challenge. So we look at this data all the time, and we have this information. This is just what one of our reports looks like, and we really hope to grow and expand this, but in partnership with all of you. If you go to the next slide, please, Tina. Our 2022 check-in challenge is really going to be all about asking the clients that you serve, what else do you need? What does your family need? What does your loved one need? How can we connect and accelerate that transition, whether any of your life's transitions for you? And we're going to put some money behind this, and there'll be some more information released about this, but as a way to just appreciate our highest referring organization without any incentive, we just wanted to say, congratulations to Next Stop, who is getting awarded $5,000 just for making referrals to all of you. So congratulations to them. They serve the E3 to E7 junior enlisted with job placement and do a great job at referring back to each one of our partners. And so we just wanted to award them that. And so it's just a huge success for them. And we look forward to all of you participating in that. If you go to the next slide, there is information about becoming a member. If you're not a formal member of Combined Arms, you can go to this page. It talks all about the benefits and everything else and the process. And of course, you can always reach us at institute@combinedarms.us. And then I'd be remiss, I think, if we have one more slide that talks about some upcoming events. We have an amazing panel coming up to celebrate the state of Native American veterans in 2021 in advance of Native American History Month, which is of course in November, but shared with Veterans Day. So we wanted to make sure we got ahead of that. Please join us for that. And then more details will be coming soon about our upcoming fundraising academy, which is for professionals with 0 to 5 years of fundraising experience and a military connected cohort. We launched this last year and had some great success. And so we'll sending more information about that. But again, I'm just going to turn it over to Shayna. Thank you for leading this committee, or maybe is it to Tina, whoever's going in next, just feel free to jump in. So thank you all.
All right, thank you, Kelly. So it's my honor to introduce our committee chair for the Wellness Committee. Shayna Purser took over the reins of Wellness Committee and also recently started at Psych Armor, which is a nonprofit dedicated to bridging the military-civilian divide by providing resources to help community members and others engage veterans. So being in that space of professional development for our organizations, for our community partners, we thought that she was a really great fit for the role. She also recently received her master's in social work from the University of Southern California, specializing in military social work. So anytime I have a conversation with her, it's full of brainstorming and ideas. And previously, she came from the Elizabeth Dole Foundation as the foundation's point of contact for military and veteran caregivers within the Hidden Heroes Coalition. So I would like to introduce Shayna, and she will be introducing our guest speaker today.
Thank you so much, Tina. And I can't say how much that resonates. You get your more than your fair share of just nerdy details and comments, because really and truly, I just love this community, and I love the idea of bridging that divide and of supporting those who support those who served. So I just really want to say thank you so much for those of you who are here with us today to take time out of your day and to have these conversations. I hope to make this as interactive of a discussion as possible. And truly, I understand that I am new to this role, but I understand that in the past, we've primarily focused on the wellness of those we care for. As caregivers in the professional sense, our primary focus has been those that we serve. However, I think the last few years now, unfortunately, that we have to say it that way, we've come to realize how much we need to focus on our wellness as well in order to be able to support the people that we serve. So I think that that's something that is a little bit different than what we've done before, but I'm really excited to see in what ways we can support you, our committee and collaboration members. And as part of that, I really think that this interactive discussion will be hugely beneficial in identifying what you need, how we can support you, whether that be opportunities for wellness to figure out how you can utilize and implement wellness in your organization, your professional life, to improve upon your own practice, but also how can we help you in your professional development, be that personally and professionally. So here's my more eloquent version of that, which was, we're living in this season and we have to look at new possibilities on how we can build ourselves. And this is what I'm hoping we can focus on this upcoming year. Your personal and professional growth is our highest priority. And I really, really want to hear from you. Good, bad, the good and the ugly. Please feel free to share all of your feedback. We're going to be asking for your feedback at the end of this session of what we can do to support you through these difficult seasons, and what you need and what you've identified as issues this past year, and also what you see as being something of concern for the upcoming year as well. So again, thank you for joining us for this discussion. It's very meaningful discussion. And I want to make sure that we're doing our best to give you the best steps forward for 2022. So looking toward 2022, our committee will be examining the needs and values of you, our members. And so part of that is going to be this meaningful collaboration and actionable support. So bringing that back into the professional development end, that is, the name of the game, Psych Armor, that's what we do. And so it's in my bones. And I really want to do what I can to support you in being able to get the resources you need to be able to continue to grow your practice and support yourself and those you support. Next slide, please. So with that all said, I would really like to, first of all, thank Ms. Kimberly Anderson and welcome Ms. Kimberly Anderson to for joining us today. We had a few moments to speak before we jumped on, and I can't tell you just how excited I am to hear about what programs she has implemented with Endeavors and what they have done to support their employees. When you talk to somebody and they have an absolute passion for what they do, it just oozes from their being. And I just want to tell you, Kimberly, you ooze with passion. You live and breathe wellness. And I feel like we're going to gain a lot from your insights and your professional and personal experience with this topic. So a little bit about Kimberly. She is the Director of Wellness, and she acts as an advocate for wellness through the Endeavors organization. Kimberly oversees the Veteran Wellness Center building, fitness center, and coordinates with the partners within the building to provide wellness services. Kimberly headed the development of the Endeavors Wellness Program, both internally and for clients, equipping people with tools to enhance their own personal wellness. Kimberly entered into a career of public health and wellness well into her adult life, a spouse of a disabled veteran and the mother of three, one who has special needs. She saw the need for education and advocacy in our healthcare system. Kimberly has a passion for wellness and for learning the best ways to find balance in every area of wellness and help others on their own wellness journey. Thank you so much, Kimberly. And without further ado, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Shana. I am so excited to be here today. We are about to open the building that you see behind me here on Veterans Day in San Antonio. And I'm very excited to be able to finally, have folks in the building and have the connection that's so much a part of what we do in wellness services. And I was listening to your presentation, Kelly, and I couldn't help but think of how over the last 2 years, developing a culture of wellness at Endeavors has been really central to how I view providing services throughout. You were saying things like if you have financial education needs or wellness needs. And in my head, I thought that financial education is a part of wellness. So I just thought that was interesting. I would kind of, throw it out there as an intro to what we started doing at Endeavors when the pandemic hit. We had just broken ground on this new building, and it was really important. We had just finalized it is all interconnected. We had just finalized our wellness model, and our leadership was, we had, as Endeavors, leadership had put together and the board had said, this is going to be our corporate culture as the pandemic was going on. And so what we saw, Dr. Plummer, I had brought to Dr. Plummer, look, we have all this programming set for our clients. It's really important to me to put this together for our employees because we've just separated everybody from their connections. We've all moved to home. How do we stay connected with our employees to keep them well? Because part of that wellness is being connected. So I'm not sure if we have the slides up just yet. Awesome. So I wanted to talk a little bit. I'm going to go through and tell you a little bit about, I think the next slide talks about just I'm going to tell you our model, give you some highlights of our program, and then talk about what we saw as the benefits of utilizing the Endeavors Wellness Program in our employees. Go ahead to the next slide. So the first piece of this is our Endeavors Wellness model. And that we did with 6 pillars of wellness. Now, often you'll see, and I'm going to talk about the first one, often you'll see mind and body separate in pillars of wellness. At Endeavors, one of our goals is that we reduce mental health stigma, and mental health is health. It is a part of your health. Things that are happening in your mind and in your brain your emotions are actually a chemical reaction that happens throughout your entire body. So separating those is I love science. Separating those is really not even it wasn't even a thought in our head, because they are one. Now, is that a really large pillar to combine into one? Yes. But it's really important that we understand that by combining it, we are not separating those pieces, and we're able to really help folks understand how all of those things fit together. So we do that through nutritional opportunities, and we'll talk about those in the Endeavors Connected piece, through opportunities to reduce stress and anxiety, and how all of our nutrition, the amount of movement we have every day, and identifying our emotions all plays a part in our mind-body health. Connectedness. A lot of times you'll see social as the pillar of health. We utilize the term connectedness. And the reason we use connectedness is because connectedness is actually a protective factor against the risks for suicide. So Victor, did you have a question? Okay, so using connectedness as the term, it also provides us the opportunity to, oh, I'm hearing an echo. I'm sorry, it's distracting me. The opportunity to really,
it looks like we need to have someone muted. If everyone can mute while we're listening to the presentation, much appreciated. And we're going to open up for questions at the end. Thank you, everybody, in advance.
So when we talk about connectedness, we talk about it, this model was really developed from suicide research that Dr. Palmer did in her doctoral thesis. But we saw the benefit of talking about connectedness, being connected to a person that you trust, and being connected to a group of people. So how we can do that and how that moves forward in our other pillars really combines well with the spiritual aspect as well. So spirituality we view at Endeavors not just in a faith tradition aspect, but in being connected to something that is bigger than yourself. For a lot of folks connected to the military culture, that was being a part of the military, being connected to something bigger than yourself. Spirituality is the piece that drives our purpose in our lives. And so being a part of the Endeavors organization, it's not just about your faith tradition, but about that purpose that you have. And so serving folks is that bigger piece and being connected that way. Environmental, we will talk about how we brought that into our employee wellness as well. But that environmental piece is extremely important. Going outside, oftentimes working from home. One of the things that I focused on with our folks is I told them, even though you're working from home, when you get off for the day, set your alarm for the time that you're going to stop working. Walk outside the door, go get the mail, go down the street, whatever, and then come back in and say, hi, I'm home. Because there is that mental break. There is that mental difference of saying like, okay, I have left work, I'm leaving that space and I'm coming back home and I'm engaging, I'm connecting now back into my family. Going outside kind of gives us that opportunity to reset and ground ourselves. Economic, this is that financial piece. And really, we view economic from a values-based place. And economic isn't just about money, because our biggest thing that we have of value is our time. So how are we spending our time? How we're spending our time should be in alignment with our values. And our values typically are driven from our spirituality. So as you can see, these things all tie together, but that aligning our financial and our economic piece with our values, we can find that balance, and working to help folks understand that the B word, budget, isn't the word that we use. We use spending plan. We feel like it's more empowering, that it doesn't produce the same feeling of constraint that that budgets do, but spending plans empower you to have that control of where things are going and how you're going to change them as obstacles arise. Knowledge is the last piece in this, and it really is just the piece that ties all of them together. At the Veteran Wellness Center and in our Endeavors Connected program for our employees, knowledge was the foundation of the week. We put it on Wednesday. We called it Wellness Wednesday, and we'll talk more about it here in a moment. But that's the piece that's how you can gain balance, is by increasing your knowledge in each of those areas. So what I love is that we've adopted the National Wellness Institute's definition of wellness for our Endeavors Wellness as well, which is that it's an active process through which you become aware of and make choices towards a more successful existence. Now, that is the most empowering statement I think that we could have, because as I have talked to our employees and our clients and the community, what I really empower everybody to do is make wellness choices. The way I start off every day, as we can go to the next slide, is I say, okay, folks, get your cup of water. If you don't have your water, get it, because as we go through this informational session, you're going to need your water. Your body really needs it in order to help your brain function properly. And it's the first wellness choice that you can make today. You may have been sitting at your computer desk and you haven't had a chance to go get a drink of water because you've been in back-to-back meetings. Now's that moment. And then I give them about 30 seconds to go get water. The wonderful thing about this is that I was able to participate in all the activities because I was facilitating all of them. Our first activity of the week, we started on Tuesdays because Mondays are just really tough to get in anything extra. So we were aware of that and conscious of that and made the choice to do 3 days a week. So we started our employee connection with Tuesdays and mindful movement. So we are blessed enough to have one of our clinic directors is a sifu for Tai Chi and taught Tai Chi remotely in everybody's screen for 18 months. And so it was extremely successful. I have become a yellow belt in Tai Chi through that. And I know it's fantastic. And everybody who has ever tried to learn Tai Chi on YouTube, it's tough. And you're thinking, I don't know. What was wonderful is that it was live and in person, but on video. So you could go, oh, wait, can you turn the other way? Or I'm confused on which way you're talking about. He really developed this ability to teach it online because of doing it several, for as many days as he did, 52 at least. So I know we really missed in person as well. The wonderful thing about our new building is that we have been able to combine virtual and in person, so we can accommodate folks wherever they're at. If they need to be in person and are safe and willing to take whatever risks they are to themselves, we have in person available. We do take safety precautions here in the building, but we also have a fully virtually capable room to display that in that does wonderful things with the microphones and the cameras and so forth. So we're really excited to be able to present them both. The next slide, please, was our Wellness Wednesday. And this So the mindful movement piece took into account your spirituality. It took into account your mind body. It took into account your connection piece and that you're connecting with other folks that are doing the same thing as you. It took into account knowledge because you're learning. And it was creating some balance with the environment. Oftentimes he would say, let's go outside. If you can take your laptop outside and do it outside. So the next one was Wellness Wednesday, and Dr. Palmer led Wellness Wednesday for us, where we had the opportunity to provide discussions on all these different topics. I mean, we talked about getting out to vote. We talked about our civil responsibilities, not just in voting, but in how to help our clients become self-advocates for themselves, not encouraging any one way or the other, but showing folks that they have a voice. I think that during the last 2 years, what I've heard over and over is that people feel less power and control over their lives than they did before. And that bringing these opportunities for education and information gives folks that little bit back. That gives them the ability to be in that moment and see this is where you can have some voice, and this is where you can have some opportunity to voice your needs and your concerns. So one of the things that we did is we took that opportunity to also, I led a cooking show. I will tell you right now, I am not a chef. I led the cooking show out of my own personal need to figure out how I was going to cook for my family while I was working from home and do it in a way where I got off of work and everybody who was hungry was fed. So I bought an Instapot. Totally was like anti-Instapot before COVID, and now I am an Instapot lover. What folks found very refreshing is that I'm pretty honest. And in my first go around with it, I just said, hey, like I needed to find something that I could just throw in the Instapot and come back down 30 minutes later and everything would be done. And so that really what that cooking show was about and continues to be about is how does just a normal person, how does just a normal person, working mom, wife, anyone get these things done in this environment? And, so thankfully we had a partner in HEB, and I was able to utilize their food and show folks like, it's okay to buy the pre-made pico de gallo. Like, just do it. Just buy the pre-made stuff, throw the chicken in the Instapot with the seasoning. And then when you're done, you have a fantastic meal and you don't have to think about it, but you can also cook more. So just like all these tips and things that I was finding worked for myself, but helping to share that and create a space where things could be shared. During that time, we also had a lot of social unrest, and it really impacted the organization heavily. That was right, around the time that George Floyd was murdered, and that we had lots of things happening overall. And Dr. Palmer and I saw the opportunity to create an open conversation in our Wellness Wednesdays for employees to be heard and for employees to say, I see you, how can, and to come together and start these conversations. And so creating this environment of wellness and having leadership support that really gave them the insight into the corporate culture that they needed in order to make changes. And through that, they started the Endeavors Foundation that has scholarships out of that. And so, we have been able to really grow forward through our learning in that time and through all the different ways and that we could connect to each other on Wellness Wednesday. We had opportunities for employees to just have conversations when there were just really hard days. So the next piece, the next slide talks about our Transformation Thursday. And I led Transformation Thursday. Transformation Thursday was really about mindfulness, but in all the ways that you can practice mindfulness. One of the things with my public health background that was really important was the evaluation piece. So often we do these things and we say, hey, you know, we got to belly breathe, you know, we got to do some, you know, a 5-minute meditation, a 3-minute meditation, or have you tried this? But we don't talk about a self-evaluation before or after. So I incorporated a poll every single time folks knew that they were going to come on and go, okay, you're going to rate your emotional intensity. Now, I didn't say rate your stress. I didn't say rate how bad you feel today. I said rate your emotional intensity. That you may be feeling really excited about something, and that's still a very intense feeling, and your body doesn't actually know the difference between that and a very stressful feeling. They just realize your body is just feeling the effects of being ready for something. So I also wanted to remove the judgment of emotions. So when you say, what is your emotional intensity? You're not judging an emotion as bad or good. And I really wanted our caregivers to come into that space of non-judgment, of shame-free space where you are just saying, I'm just feeling a lot right now, and kind of have that moment for them to, every week they knew they could come there and identify what they were feeling and have some reprieve from it. So then we would practice a tool. And I put the tools on the slide because with every tool, and I'm sure everyone has tried something on this list here, but how many times have you tried it? Have you evaluated your emotional intensity before and after to know if it worked? Maybe it didn't work the first 3 times, but then something clicked, and the 7th time you were like, wow, I had a huge reduction in, you know, my intensity, or I had a huge improvement in my feelings for myself improvement. So evaluating yourself before and after is key, and setting up the practice of doing that. I often liken it to a drill. If you get a new drill, and there are lots of drills, there's impact drills, there's, I don't know, whatever the other names of those drills are. But there's lots of different drills. You could go walk into Home Depot. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. You can totally put it in the chat if you know the name of another drill besides impact. But you know, how do you know what to do with that drill when you get it home? You have to use it. You have to understand it. You have to try it a few times, because when you need it, the chances of you going to your tool bag and pulling that out, if you haven't practiced it, are very small. So I want folks to understand that practicing these may be uncomfortable initially, but everybody on here knows that being uncomfortable is the way to grow. And it's also the way that we find paths to new things. You got to cut down, you got to get the machete out and cut down some of the weeds and be a little uncomfortable to grow that new path. So it's okay to be uncomfortable and practice it and determine after 5 or 6 times, yes, I like this, no, I don't. So these are the things that we really talked about overall through our organizational employee wellness. And I've kind of taken you through a little bit of each of them. And then if you'll go to the next slide, what we found is we were doing more evaluations that folks were seeing a pattern. What they were reporting is, after doing these, I noticed a reduction in my stress level. I noticed a reduction in my days of work missed. Folks were able to work more days better in their role because their intensities were not so high. They could be in that moment. So as we talked about mindfulness, and as we talked about those, we also set goals. We set SMART goals. Thank you for reminding me about that, Deanna. That, you know, we set goals to practice those things outside of those specific days. So the other big piece of that is that folks across endeavors were able to get to know each other in ways that they would have never been able to had we stayed working in the office. I met folks across the entire nation, Puerto Rico, South Carolina, North Carolina, California, Houston, everywhere, that I would have never met if we hadn't done this employee endeavors connected piece. And so folks across endeavors were able to collaborate better. We had more efficient, we were able to gather more information as an organization and be able to reduce some of the workload, because we could say, wait, your program does this, can we partner up and how can we move forward? We've done trainings and team building events. So that's really kind of in a nutshell, our employee piece of that. But we did notice that the employees have missed it. I've had to put it on hold for a couple of months while we get the wellness center open. But I have, you know, we have requests. When is it coming back online? So you know it's worked when you've had that opportunity to have folks say, "Hey, we miss it. We want it back," because HR did notice that our sick days were reduced, that, you know, folks had a greater job satisfaction when they were attending the Endeavors Connected. So we really did focus in those Transformation Thursdays a lot on reducing our compassion fatigue. How do we use meditation to reduce that compassion fatigue? And part of that is being very intentional about releasing things that are not ours to carry. So I'm excited to hear some questions and give you all an opportunity. I've talked way enough.
No, this is absolutely amazing. I mean, I told you guys, she oozes wellness, right? And if anybody has any questions, I'd like to welcome you to pop them in the chat, or even take yourself off mute. Now, do mind, this is a recorded session, so only say what you want shared out to the public and all that jazz, but in whatever way you feel most comfortable, please share your questions. Victor, did you have any questions? I saw your hand was raised.
I think his hand was raised from earlier, Shayna, but
Okay.
I will jump in if it's okay, because I do have a question. You were talking about the topics from that Dr. Palmer hosted on Wellness Wednesday, and I'm just curious about like some of the dynamics of that, like who decided the topic of the day? Was it group collaboration? You know, how did you, a little bit more specifics on like how you organized that?
So glad you asked. So I'm going to be very transparent here. In the beginning, we had laid out very specific things because it was very early in the pandemic, and being a public health person, you know, we had a lot that we wanted to, we started this. So we went home March 11th, and the first Endeavors Connected live event was April 15th. So we had a curriculum set out of topics on, you know, how to keep yourself healthy and safe, and in those early days, what those things really were, and really talking about the science and spread of the pandemic. As we moved forward, shortly after that, as we talked about, was the social unrest that was happening. And Dr. Palmer and I really felt a call to address the topics that were hard, that were happening. So we didn't plan out months in advance, because things were ever changing throughout that next 6 months. We really took the topics week to week to hear what the needs were in the community as well as Endeavor's community to see, okay, this is what's happening. We really need to talk about this. And it was just a great way to provide space for folks to say, like, gosh, I'm really struggling with this right now as a provider. And I actually feel like I'm not the only one. I'm not alone in this struggle.
Yes. Yeah. And that's something, it's very isolating. And there really are not that many resources for peer support and groups and these kinds of resources for providers.
So we took the opportunity to really go we took a mix of news events and what's happening globally and locally. And we then translated that across the Endeavors community. And then we also took very specific topics about wellness. So, and mental and behavioral health. We talked about the rise in SUD disorders. We talked about, so it was really very much like, what is happening now that we need to talk about so that providers feel supported and feel like they have a resource for more information.
Yes,
go ahead, Tina.
Yes, Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing all this. I hope that people can take this back, some of the ideas, and try to implement something like this for their organizations. I think what you've done is not only a good example of like just an employee wellness program in general, but specifically like targeting people who care for others and provide, wellness care for others. Can you talk about like the number of your providers that are also military affiliated, and how like all of the, all the events, that you mentioned, how that was affecting them and their ability to provide care?
Yes. So Endeavors as a whole is a preferred provider for veterans. And so I don't know if you all know what that means, but basically as an organization, we have more than 25% of our workforce are veterans. And then if you add in the family members like myself that are either spouses or partners, you've just exponentially grown that. So we have a tremendous amount, and our Stephen A. Cohen Military Family Clinic in San Antonio alone, I think there's 20 providers that are veterans. And then you add in all of the others, there's a tremendous amount. And we feel that military culture is very much alive in our spaces. So it was really tough, especially the withdrawal from Afghanistan. You really felt the checking in on each other. And I just can't say enough how intentional that was, and how much that was it was just natural. Everyone would walk around and be like, how are you doing for real? Don't say fine. Don't say I'm good. Don't say it's good.
I don't say that anymore. I say I'm here. I showed up.
Right. And so, really taking that opportunity to check in, but a lot of our folks were experiencing this stress, as well as having to provide therapy sessions and to work and do intake on folks who are in crisis because of the events. And so we saw a tremendous uptake in the numbers of calls that we were getting from clients needing services and in crisis. And we also saw that stress in our folks. So the wonderful thing is that because of Endeavors Connected, we had that ability to reach out to our folks and say, what do you need? What can we do? How can we improve this? We also have our employee assistance program. Endeavors also provides a chaplaincy program that it subscribes to. So there are plenty of resources if they don't want to talk to us, if they want, but knowing that Endeavors cares enough not just to add that EAP into insurance, but it's really about, this is our culture. is taking care of each other and the folks that we care for and serve.
Thank you. Thank you. And I saw that there was a question in the chat about resources, for these kinds of activities and classes. And I know that there's a plethora of different options out there, but, as it relates to, implementing this in our own organizations, or even gaining, a stakeholder buy-in, presenting this kind of thing to our leadership, what do you have any recommendations, or what was your plan when you brought this to leadership at Endeavors?
So thankfully our leadership, our CEO and COO, when Dr. Palmer brought this model for the building, they were like, oh yeah, that sounds great, but you could tell they were like, yeah, that's a fantastic idea, go ahead. And substance use disorders, to answer the question in there, substance use disorders was what rose. And so we kind of brought it to them. And then when we said, by the way, that we really want this to be the culture, because if we're going to have this program, we have to be genuine and authentic. And if this isn't the culture that we live here at Endeavors, it's never going to take off. And so we've been very, very blessed to have leadership that is open to the conversation of saying, how does our authenticity matter? And it matters because if we're not doing what we say we're doing, then it's not going to work. Absolutely.
And I think that has been really very much reflected in other areas of, the professional landscape. And so, I know that, in my professional practice as a social worker, just this year, the NASW, the National Association for Social Workers, just released some amendments to the Code of Ethics, which, that fun living document, that thing is what we're supposed to live and breathe by. But of all the things that could have been, for the amendment specifically relates to the ethical necessity of self-care in practice, which was impactful because as we mentioned, and as you mentioned, so often we forget about our own wellness and we don't have that perceived time available. Right. And that's
exactly it.
So with that and kind of bringing that time component back into it, you saw that providing time gave people an opportunity, just that perception of.
So, and we asked our leadership to, and the reason you saw, and I included the time amount that we designed for each in those slides, is because we specifically said, are you bought in enough to give 30 minutes of Endeavors time so that, and the employees don't have to take it on their lunch, they don't have to do it after work. It is considered part of their work day to take care of themselves.
That's incredible. I know that for me and once again, do as I say and not as I do. I will often recommend wellness resources to others. However, I can say firsthand, I'm not doing that great of a job implementing that in my own life because of that perceived availability of time. Kimberly, I could go on and on with questions for you. I really want to extend my appreciation to you for joining us today.
For sure. Thank you for asking.
Of course, I huge fan already. So you've got a fan club starting over here, and I'll be the lead of that fan club. So again, thank you, Kimberly. And I'm sure I'm going to be following up with you to pick your brain on this, because I think that is a tremendous effort, both on your part and on the part of Endeavors, to ensure not the wellness and sustainability of providers. And so this is not just, this is more than just, taking a few minutes, for yourself. This is an important part of your practice as a professional. This is what's going to keep you going and lead to the best outcomes to those you serve. And it is a component, in some of our codes as as a cultural competence to be able to perform that self-care. And, you know, as we've mentioned, you know, throughout this whole pandemic and all of the civic and you know, national, international events that have transpired, it's become increasingly difficult. I can tell you right now, I'm not on the top of my ball right now because I have a child at home, possible COVID, but it's still my workday. I still have things to do. And so that really limits the opportunity in which we can feel like we're performing that perceived, you know, our perceived work efforts and what we're putting out, as well as our perceived time to get in that, you know, gym moment, or to, you know, go and do yoga and Tai Chi.
Well, and I think just to put this, and I think this is a great way to lead out of this, is that wellness is balance. And it doesn't mean a balance in an hour. It doesn't mean a balance in 6 hours or 12 hours. If you can think about your balance as a professional in a week. So maybe you can't be tending to your child in this moment, but tomorrow you will have that time dedicated to. And also self-care is not just bubble baths, massages, and green smoothies, right? Self-care is watching a football game. Self-care is going on a 10-mile ruck. Self-care is having a connection time with your friend who you haven't seen in a while. Self-care is anything that feeds and balances any area of your wellness.
Amen to that. That t-shirt material right there. Thank you, Kimberly. You're a wealth of inspiration and information, and I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been to be able to speak with you and meet you here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And so, you know, moving forward, you know, we really want to get your interpretations. You know, we want to know what you are experiencing, you know, personally. We have some, professionally, we have some question prompts in which we're going to be breaking out and having these smaller group discussions. And I'll leave that to Tina to give you all the finer details of that. But before we lead into that, I really just want to say once again that overall, what I want to learn from you today is what you need from us as a committee in the upcoming year. And please don't hold back. We need your input and your insight to be able to provide the best possible outcomes for you and those you serve. So with all that said, what else do you need? I don't know if you combined arms folks. Yeah, exactly. Threw that one in there. So thank you all. And I really look forward to your authentic feedback, and I'll pass it on over to you, Tina.
All right, so I think I just put in the chat a link to a Google document. So I just want to make sure that everybody can pull that up, have it available on your desktop, on your other tabs, because when we break out into breakout rooms, you're going to need to be able to access that. So just a couple of quick little data points that I pulled before we go into breakout rooms, and while you're making sure that you have access to that form. These are some pieces of data that I pulled from our public Tableau page. So just to kind of give you an idea, you know, Kelly showed you earlier the number of check-ins. So this is very similar, you know, career services being number one, financial assistance, but then you see the counseling services is right there up at the top as well. General inquiry is basically people that we get connected into our system, but they may not be connecting to a direct resource at that time. So counseling services, you could say, is, you know, number 4 being requested. And then also, this is just a breakout of year to date. This is as of September, so we don't have the updated numbers just yet, but a breakout of some of the wellness services and the numbers that are associated with that. So we've got healthcare needs and services, life wellness resources, mental wellness. So you can see the numbers there, and with life wellness resources actually being one of the higher ones. And this is based on client connections in our system. And then also I looked at some of our demographic information just to get some information on counseling services and life wellness resources to try to figure out a picture of, you know, who is that client based on the clients that we have available in our system and that demographic information. So the people requesting counseling services the most were those in the age range of 18 to 25, Black, veterans, and males. And then I found it interesting, you know, that demographic changed a little bit when you looked at health and wellness. Those were people who were in the age range of 31 to 40, white, also veterans. The majority of our clients are veterans, and also male. And then one of the things that we do with our wellness organizations, those that are case managing the case referrals that go to their organization, when they close out that referral, we're asking them to complete some outcome measurements through an outcome measurement survey. And this is especially important for the wellness providers because we ask them specifically on all of the different scales that they measure how that person has improved for whatever type of service they were receiving. So we're trying to get the completion rates up so that we can have some better data to present to all of our organizations in the next year. So this is just showing the number of surveys that have been sent out on the top left, on the bottom left. And then out of those, the number of surveys that have been completed. So we're sitting at a 31% completion rate. And then once those surveys are completed, it automates a client feedback survey that goes to the client as well. And those are at a much lower completion rate. So we're working through our tech to make it a little more accessible for our clients to give us feedback on how the referral process went and how the delivery resources were. We do understand that a lot of our organizations, especially on the wellness side, are already tracking this information, but we want to make sure that we're getting a little bit more outcome measurements than just case closure on our end. Any questions on the data before I go on? Okay. So if you've been able to access this dashboard, this is what it should look like. Just give me a thumbs up so I can see that you were able to access it. And what we're going to do is when I break you out into breakout rooms, we don't have a large group of people, so I'm probably just going to open up about 4 rooms. It's going to be a random selection. So just in case we have people drop off or I have to make a little bit of adjustments, just bear with me when you first get into your breakout room. And then once things are settled, you'll have a couple of minutes to introduce yourself to your team. And then you'll be able to click the link in your dashboard to whatever breakout room number you're in. And then you'll see the slides that will come up. So it's going to give you instructions to do some brief introductions, and then we'll have about 25 minutes to answer the discussion questions that Shana has put together for us. We're going to finish breakouts at 11:45. And so that's when we'll close the breakout rooms and be able to come back to the main session, and everyone can give an overview summary of what they discussed. So this is kind of our whiteboard version of the breakouts. So you can see there's like a little sticky note. When you get in, you can just Control D and copy that sticky note. And so each person in your room can do their own individual brainstorming. And then once you all have placed your sticky notes, then you can have a little further discussion about it. So you can put your names in the first slide with the group names. And then these 3 questions will be broken out on separate slides, so you have a little bit more room to put your sticky notes. And Shana, if you have anything else that you'd like to add before we go into breakout sessions.
No, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate you covering the technical side.
All right.
Anything with numbers, I get hives.
So Jason, if you can make me the host again so that I can put everyone back in breakouts. All right, you can join your breakout rooms now. With that. And also I wanted to mention, because I'm really terrible at introducing myself. So my role on the team is the partner development manager. And so I work with all organizations who are applying to become member organizations, going through the due diligence process to bring them on as a new member, all the way through onboarding and training on the technology. And then of course the following up and outcome measurement. So Jason Wise is our new collaboration manager. So all of the feedback that we're getting from everyone here, he's going to take that and run with it into next year, and collaboration and engagement with our current member organizations. So just wanted to mention that. And I wanted to give each room, I know we just had a few breakout rooms, so they were a little bit smaller today. And one of the things that I realized is it's hard with wellness, not only to provide self-care for ourselves, but to come to something like this, to take the time out for something like this. So thank you so much for being here on a Friday. Most of our points of contact that we have are probably the case managers who are, working really hard on managing all of those case referrals, or the providers who are providing direct care. So we kind of recognize that that might be a little bit of a limitation. So we added that additional question, who else should be on the committee that we can really collaborate and learn best practices from. So with that, for each team, we had team 1, Shayna and Earl, and I really asked them specifically to go over the question of who should we be engaging. So Shayna, if you want to give a couple of minutes to just give a broad overview of what y'all discussed and some of your key takeaways.
Of course. Do you want me to share my screen, or would you rather me just?
You can,
okay,
if that helps.
All righty. So here we go. So since there were only the two of us, we decided not to go with my handy dandy sticky note thing that I was, by the way, very proud of. That whole sticky note feature. Did not know about that. But so when we were considering, who should we be engaging, there was some great feedback on that, because admittedly, I am biased. I am a social worker. I go toward the mental emotional wellness, but as Kimberly really highlighted, and as the re-emphasis of this, wellness is not solely mental, emotional. There is that overlap and that interconnectedness between the two. So really opening this up and really communicating that to other organizations that we may not be targeting with the verbiage that we're using right now, and really identifying what these other professionals are and how we can integrate this into a combined session so that we can have better, a more robust discussion, better turnout, but also to introduce, different concepts that may have not been introduced if it were solely on one topic or one area of wellness. So really taking that wheel and just, diving right in. Yeah. So also, yeah, like you mentioned, Tina, we're talking to the folks on, who are doing the work, the case management, folks who are directly involved in the wellness of their patients, clients, what have you. So identifying these, key stakeholders in these organizations who are, involved in outreach, community engagement, partner outreach, events, et cetera, and engaging with them so that they can either properly disseminate it within their organization and or with their partners as well, and encouraging them to engage with us.
All right, thank you so much. That was right at 2 minutes. So we have enough time to hear from all the groups. And one of the things I was thinking of as you were giving your summary is some of those organizations mentioned. I think one of the challenge might be that a lot of them are staffed by volunteers, so how can we engage those that are volunteers and may not be, doing that as their full-time work? So just a question to think of.
That's a good point. I'm adding that.
Okay. Team 2, we had Kimberly, Jason, and Rebecca. So whoever wants to take point on giving us a summary, and feel free to share your screen if you'd like to as well. If you can speak on, especially what y'all talked about with how do you define workplace wellness?
Jason, do you want to do it or?
No, I was just saying you can't. You were muted.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So we talked with Rebecca and Jason, and I was really quiet and letting everybody kind of put this together. But what we had put together is that the physical wellness is important, but that environmental piece, stepping away and getting fresh air meaning being outside, fresh air meaning not sitting at our desk or engaging in work 24/7 or even 27, and kind of making sure that we apply some of those boundaries. Also, the acceptance of work and home life being in one space for a lot of folks. So how do we join that together moving forward for the folks who are continuing to work at home and maybe working at home in the future? Also, we talked about that, making sure that separating our work space from our home space, and how that was really a place of wellness, was being able to close the door on the workspace in our homes and saying like that's finished, and so that we could be a part of the family as we were, and really creating that boundary, and setting hours and applying boundaries to our time will help provide workplace wellness. So making sure that those working hours as we work from home or in a hybrid situation stay our working hours. Maybe we were used to working more hours we were at home, and now it's hard to stop doing that. And I'll raise my hand on that one. So did you want me, was that just the only note that you wanted us to go over?
Yeah, if you had any other major takeaway or aha, you can share that as well.
We kind of touched on it on the end, but I touched on the fact that as women, working from home has an added burden because of the cultural norms that we have around women being the primary caregiver. And how do we set a new norm for workplace wellness for women that includes childcare, even though you're working from home, that includes that ability to say, it's okay for me to work from home and to not be able to be the primary caregiver or the person who may be caring for the home building. And so really being able to communicate those boundaries to our partners as women. I see Shana just laughing and laughing. I'm sorry. But I really think that, and the more you get to know me, the more you know I'm going to call out tough stuff. And it's hard to say like, this is something that we need to change. But if we don't start talking about it, it's never going to change.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, and thanks for staying on with us to help participate in the breakouts as well. It was great to have your inputs. So the last team, we had Kelly and Matt, and I know that y'all had some feedback for the committee. So if y'all want to share what kind of feedback you have for the committees or things you'd like to see going into next year.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with Matt. I know he just had to step away, but he just had some ideas and suggestions as to how, like, topics that we could put together, right? So he talked about a lot for those of us that work or travel, perhaps being healthy on the road and how we might be able to balance that, as we all have bad habits, eating badly, sleeping badly. And so he even volunteered to lead that session for us. So I was really excited about that. And then we talked about how to continue to build rapport with virtual colleagues, right? So many of us will go back to working in an office environment eventually, but some of us always work from home. And so this is our norm. And so how do we continue to build on those relationships in that virtual environment? And then finally, we talked about how amazing these tips and tricks were that came from Endeavors, but many of us work on really small teams, right? That we're teams of 12 or teams of 20. And so how can we, as non-veteran serving, military serving nonprofits, come together and perhaps collectively institute Wellness Wednesdays for our teams in the way that Endeavors was able to do for their very large staff. And so that was kind of one of the ideas that he suggested and had some really good thoughts about.
I would love to pick your brain too on how we as a collaborative can get the leadership buy-in, because we have all of these autonomous organizations to have them participate in that Wellness Wednesday as a collaborative. So that's something to think about going forward too. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to pull up our last slide. We just have a little bit of feedback we'd love to get from you. And I have a QR code here that I'll ask you to take.
While you're pulling that up, I know Tina's going to fill out a survey, and we'll also present the survey. And we just love to get your feedback and continue to engage you. We know this is really critical to how we do our work going forward. So thank you for taking the time to join us today, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. We appreciate the brain thought and your commitment and time to this. And special thanks to Kimberly and Shayna for your leadership and amazing conversation. So we just appreciate all of you. And like Tina said, the QR code's here, but we'll send it to you in a follow-up. But feedback's so important to us. So thank you for taking the time and joining with us. We look forward to collaboration in 2022. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much again, Kimberly. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everybody. I know we were a small group today, but I think we had a lot of really meaningful conversation. And I highly encourage you to reach out to your colleagues and ask them the very same questions, because it's through this feedback that we will be able to tailor 2022 to best serve you and to make sure that we're including what you need and what will benefit your organization and yourselves most. So thanks again for being here and spending this time with us on a Friday. Bye, y'all. Happy weekend.